When I was little and I started dancing, I just would dance around the house all the time. That's when I fell in love, was with that freedom and that total ability to just immerse myself in another world and be creative on my own and be free. I was finding my place as a young person that never knew Balanchine. Had probably a different look than the rest of them. You know, I wasn't necessarily a beautiful girl. I'm beautiful now, but I didn't know beauty. I knew how to be serious, and I knew how to be strong, and I knew how to be consistent. In fact, over the years of my time in City Ballet, I witnessed the getting rid of the tights. I was one of the first ballerinas to take off their tights and dance bare-legged.
Wendy Whelan is here. Since 1991, she's been a principal dancer with the New York City Ballet. She is considered to be one of the great ballerinas performing today.
Ballet superstar Wendy Whelan inspires a kind of rapture in dance critics and choreographers alike. When you see her move, you understand.
Wendy Whelan is a national treasure who is always taking us beyond.
She's a dancer for all seasons, all isms. She's absolutely magic in the Balanchine repertoire.
I'm still fascinated with Balanchine's choreography. I never stop learning about those ballets. They constantly reveal new things to me. But the first year I was there, Balanchine died. I worked with Robbins for 12 years on a daily basis. Since I didn't have Balanchine, I feel incredibly lucky to have had him.
After 30 years with the company, nobody in the history of New York City Ballet has had more new works made upon them.
Wendy has been one of the great originators of new roles and shaped contemporary ballet today, shaped the work of William Forsythe, Christopher Wheeldon, Alexei Rutmansky.
Part of the reason I'm making this foray into contemporary and modern dance is because there's a lot of untapped movement in me. And as dancers, it's just, you know, how much do you want to explore? How much do you want to dare yourself? As I've aged, I've softened, I've been vulnerable, I've broken, I've put myself back together, and I've found so much beauty in that. Yeah, can I get one from today? These craftsmen in Japan, they would make these bowls out of green wood, and people thought they were crazy. They're like, why are you making out of green wood? It's just gonna crack, it's gonna break. And the craftsman would be like, we know. You know, and then ultimately the bowl would break and the craftsman would go, yes, now I can make it beautiful. And they would put gold in and fill in the cracks with gold and, you know, make beauty from the humanness of an element. I just love that idea. I think I've enjoyed my career because it's been challenging. If it was any easier for me, I don't know if it would have been that interesting. I think for 30 years I thought, what would I do without New York City Ballet? How could I ever leave, you know? Oh, it'll be the end of me. I'd rather die, you know? And so maybe I'm a different person than I was. Maybe I grew up.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Wendy Whelan and Stephen Caras.
Where do I go from here? I mean, wasn't that enough? Not really. Now we got to listen to this great woman. Wendy, thank you for coming. And we've been friends since, oh my goodness, we won't discuss the age, but it's been a long time.
The 80s.
Let's leave it at that.
I say the 80s.
But you'll always be much younger than me. You started, and that's good news for you. You started at 3 dance lessons?
3.
And then I read that about a Nutcracker that you wanted to audition for. And your mother said something. What was that?
Well, I saw the Nutcracker in Louisville Ballet, when I was 6. And I loved it. And I loved the Arabian dance. That was the dance that I was like, I want to be her. And the next year at school, my second grade friend said, I'm going to go audition for the Nutcracker. Do you want to come with me? I was like, yes, I do. So I told my mom, I asked my mom, and she said, well, what if you don't make it? I said, I'm going to make it, Mom. and my friend and I both made it. So
you did make it, and you were a mouse in the
I was a mouse and a cook. Carried cakes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was a mouse when I got into the New York City
You were
Ballet.
a teenage mouse.
That's not good.
Big mice, yeah.
You're lucky you got it over with at 8.
I did.
It's like I'm in the company and not
But you guys
fair.
were way funnier than we were, so.
We were the mice?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, we had to get through it somehow.
Yeah.
You recognized in that process collaboration because you said to yourself as a child, you looked at this as a mess that wound up getting all the parts put together. So you had a very advanced observation of that. You saw collaboration from an early age.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
My mom reminds me how I used to run up to the orchestra pit and just, look what's happening, this is where the music's coming from, run back, watch it. Then when I got into the performance, struck by lightning, I got to meet the dancers, I got to, work with the directors, I got to have the live orchestra, I had costume fittings, the makeup artists, the stage hands. I mean, I love them. And I'm still friends with them from when I was 8.
Really?
Those guys in Louisville.
The guys in Louisville?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you say that after several years, your intense training began. And more intensive, what did that mean? Not once a week anymore, but every day? And about how old were you when you transferred? Because it's interesting for people to know, well, my daughter's in ballet and she's 5 and she takes once a week, and then suddenly she's 12. I mean, what age were you when you intensified?
I was working with the local teacher who trained all the girls in the city at high school and as younger dancers, and Cotillion was also there. I did that as a young dancer, and she taught me how to love ballet because she gave us a lot of freedom, but also taught us the right movements and the right...
Good teacher, obviously.
A great teacher, yeah. And then when I was about 9, she knew I wanted more. She could tell. And she would ask me to come and help her demonstrate for the younger kids. I was only like 9, and I'm teaching the... And so that was good, but she knew I needed... She said, go work with the Louisville Ballet School. Go downtown. And once I got there, the classes were very small, very intense. And by the age of 10, they were offering me classes every day, which was what I really wanted.
Right.
So.
Was there such thing as a scholarship in that school?
I think there might have been some help for my family.
That's good.
They offered help for that.
That's good.
Yeah.
When the talent shows up, you got to encourage it.
Yeah.
So they discovered you had scoliosis when you were 12. How did that come about?
I've heard different stories. My story is that I was dancing and I pulled my hamstring in class, and the injury didn't go away, so I went to see an orthopedist, and the orthopedist was like the top orthopedist, and he had me bend forward and sort of just hang over my legs, and he saw the misalignment of my spine. He saw the different shape that it should have been. So he sent me to a specialist, but my teachers say they also noticed it. They correcting me could feel it and see it, and they talked amongst themselves, but they didn't tell me about it.
I see.
So they were on it, and then I found out from this orthopedist.
Right. And then you had a body cast or brace that you wore for what, 5 years?
I went through a treatment. Luckily for me, I had in Louisville, Kentucky, some world-renowned ballet teachers from the Royal Ballet, London Festival Ballet, and Paris Opera Ballet. Yeah, don't know how that happened, but I got those people.
How did they wind up down there?
The bourbon? I don't know. I don't know.
Very good reason.
Maybe, I don't know. And we also had this top orthopedist for scoliosis in Louisville at the time. So I went to him, and his procedure at the time was to put a young person into traction for a week at a time. So I spent a week at a time, about 4 different times over the summer in complete traction in the hospital, laying in a bed. 12 pounds strapped to my head. I grew 1.5 inches in the first week. Yeah.
Did you really?
And then after that first week, they put me back in that traction and then covered me in plaster. So I had a plaster body cast from my shoulders to my hips. And I wore that for a month. And then after that month, I would get that cast taken off, go back into traction, do it again. I did that about 4 times. Yeah. So it lasted about 5 or 6 months. And then I got a Milwaukee brace that I could remove. So
when did you wear that? For
I wore it all the time except when I showered or danced. So of course I took extra classes. So I could take the brace off. But one thing that was sort of really pivotal was one of my teachers from the Paris Opera Ballet at the time. I got into that body cast, and what am I going to do? It's summer, and I'm wearing 15 extra pounds on my body, and I can't bend, I can't twist. She said, come to class. I was like, what? You have to be kidding me. She said, no, I'm not kidding. You're doing so well. We want you to keep your mind engaged and focused. Wow. Don't lose your focus at this really pivotal point. I was 13. And I did.
Yeah.
I went to class every day with a 15-pound body cast on. I didn't stand in the center like I usually did. I hid in a corner, and I learned how to work with what I had. And
Wow.
changed my life.
Wow.
Made me do everything differently.
Forgive me for not showing a picture of you in that body.
That's
cast.
okay. That's okay. I don't think many
I don't
pictures
think
are, there
anybody's
aren't
ever
many
seen
pictures.
one.
Yeah.
So your teachers then encouraged you, rather, to audition for Suzanne Farrell, of all people, one of the Balanchine's great ballerinas, who was scouting for
Yeah.
scholarship kids for the School of American Ballet in New York, the New York City Ballet School, for their summer course. So tell us about your audition. She came to Louisville?
No, nobody came to Louisville at the time. They do now, I think. My mom drove me up to Cincinnati, which is about an hour and a half from Louisville.
Suzanne hails from Cincinnati.
She's from Cincinnati. She was there visiting her mom, and she was like, oh, I'll give the audition class at the conservatory. And so I went, and there's 300 kids.
So this was around
1981?
81.
80?
So you were like 13?
81. I was 13, yeah.
By the way, Suzanne's real name is Roberta Sue Ficker.
Yeah.
Sorry, Suzanne.
Yeah.
But it was a good change, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a good change, yeah.
And what did she think of you, and what did you think of her? Obviously, you got into the school on scholarship, but what was your impression of her, and did you know anything about her?
I didn't know anything about her, and I honestly wasn't sure what School of American Ballet was. I thought it was maybe the American Ballet Theater School, but my teacher was like, no, this is, he was a...
Really?
He was a big New York City Ballet fan. He loved Balanchine, and my teacher, the French woman teacher, Cécile, she said that's at the time the school in New York. ABT didn't have a school. She said, this is the place you need to be. And so I was like, okay, I'll just go. I went in, and she gave the hardest class. We had to wear point shoes, which I wasn't used to wearing regularly. We did everything on point. And then I remember she gave Grand Plie and center and fifth in point shoes, which is it's hard, right? It's hard.
Heard some
Later
young
on, I'm
grunts
gonna
over
no, I'm
there.
just joking.
Yeah.
But I aced that Grand Plie, and I just knew I did it,
You got
and
it.
I just felt good, and I felt good the whole class, even though it was really challenging. And
Did it make sense?
interesting.
The steps, were they
Yeah,
foreign to you at
it was a
all?
little more intellectual than I had experienced. She gave steps that I hadn't really ever tried or didn't normally try. And I was 13, and I thought, well, maybe I should just go take the temperature and just ask her about a step. Just, after the class. I thought, why don't I just go and, Miss Farrell, do you think should I lift that leg higher, or, I just wanted to get a vibe. I couldn't wait to get my answer. And she said to me, oh, how's Jean-Pierre? And Jean-Pierre Bonafou had been in Louisville at the time choreographing. And I thought, how does she know?
Through the French
Jean-
connection
No.
of the Paris, or
Maybe.
how did he? Yeah, through that teacher.
But Suzanne knew Jean-Pierre was in Louisville, and she knew I was from Louisville. I said, she looked at my card.
He was a Paris opera star and then a star of the New York City Ballet.
And so the fact that she had put the two together, that she asked me how
fast.
Jean-Pierre is, and
Yeah.
she must know I'm from Louisville. She looked at my card. So I felt really good. And I went home, and I was like, she knows I'm from Louisville.
But boy, you had
Yeah.
no fears. You said to your mother, I'm gonna get in, and
Yeah.
you did. You weren't a shy kid from the sounds of it.
My mom was a college basketball coach. No, I wasn't shy.
So was your father a hairdresser?
A
That's
banker.
weird.
My dad,
Yeah.
very quiet. My mom, very...
Oh, so
Strong.
that
I take
could
after her,
intimidate
yeah.
or that could strengthen. So
A little bit of both.
The latter.
Yeah,
oh,
a little
okay.
bit of both. Yeah.
So when you realized who Suzanne Farrell was after the fact,
Yeah.
what'd you think of her? Her dancing?
You mean like when I got to New York?
Yeah,
She
when
was
you-
still beyond my intellect. She wasn't a perfect, she wasn't like those Royal Ballet women that were
Used to
perfect
all the
photo.
placement and the clarity.
She moved.
Yeah.
And she was alive. And she was filled with imperfection, but took it to a point of perfection.
Yeah.
And it took a while for me to understand that.
I see.
Her style of dancing was very different to me.
Who did you, who, if you can remember,
Yeah.
who were you impressed with in any of the companies when you got to New York?
Well, I had a thing for Patricia McBride because she actually came and guested in Louisville when I was a kid. Like Jean-Pierre, her husband, would come and choreograph, and she would actually come and dance. So I would see her as a young person on my home stage, and I passed her in the hallway backstage once. She was so nice, and she was so lovely.
It's the real deal.
And she was just a happy human being and kind to everybody.
Yeah.
And I said to my mom, like a few days after seeing her, she was picking me up from ballet, and I said, you know, when I make it, I'm going to be like Patricia McBride.
Not if, but when.
No, I said, when I make it, I'm
when.
going to be
Yes.
like Patricia McBride.
It's good, that's
That's
healthy.
who I want to be like.
Yeah.
And I've always tried to emulate that.
That warmth.
Yeah.
Yeah, generosity.
And just knowing everybody, and just,
Yeah.
it's not, and there's another story where I
It's
fell
available.
on stage as an apprentice, and she was the Sugar Plum Fairy, I was the Snowflake my first year. And we ended up leaving the theater together, and she was like, how are you? How is it going? How is it to be an apprentice? I was like, well, I fell tonight. I slipped on the snow, and she goes, was that you? I saw that.
She's legally blind, you know.
I thought, I was like, she did not watch the snow. And she goes, you look like a little snowball. And I was like, it's okay to fall, clearly, to
Yeah.
Patricia McBride.
She never got winded, she never sweated.
Yeah.
She would just come
She was
off
always
stage
like,
and go,
boop, and she'd have a
after
little
like
sip of
4
Coca-Cola,
variations.
and she'd go, and she'd run back out there.
How did you take to New York when you first got there?
I just had the blinders on. I was
You didn't
just
see it, you didn't
school,
know it,
ballet.
you just
I
knew.
just knew what I had to do.
Right, and so you spent a summer at the school, summer course, which was about 6 weeks?
5.
5 weeks, without the family?
No, without the family.
In their rooms, in their...
No, they didn't have dorms.
They didn't have dorms then?
No, we all had to find our own living.
Oh.
So I lived with a group of people I didn't know. I was 14.
And you were fine, probably.
I was okay.
Share a bathroom?
Yeah, everything shared.
I don't like that.
Yeah, yeah.
So the adjustment, once you got to become an apprentice, this was difficult, I think, and because of the timing factor, but was your goal New York City Ballet
Oh,
when
yeah.
you settled in and started Patty and the others? Were there any other companies that interested in you?
Well, I
interested
grew
you?
up being trained for ABT. So my teachers were British and French, European. But then I had a teacher come in when I was 11, 12. He had studied with Maggie Black. who was
Mr. Balanchine referred to her as Black Magic.
Yeah.
Because he was jealous if we took Maggie Black's class outside of his class every
Yeah,
morning.
she was sort of an antithesis of Balanchine's style.
Yeah.
But very, very healthy. Good for young people to learn structure, alignment. You were there all the time.
All the time.
Yeah.
Sneaking in.
Yes.
Yeah.
So he came back to Louisville and taught me how to stand up. And I felt the progress of what I was learning really quickly. And I started to be able to assimilate these ideas internally. And with the scoliosis, I could see myself from the inside because of this learning. So I carried that to New York, but I didn't have any Russian training till then. So coming into those classes was, whoa. And the musicality was always a challenge for me. That specific teacher, Robbie, who gave Maggie Black classes, your musicality, gotta work on that.
Right. What about the teachers at the School of American Ballet? It was like Noah's Ark. One or two of everything.
Yes,
It wasn't
exactly.
one person,
Right.
one type of training.
No.
It was all over the map when I was
Yeah,
there.
me
When I
too.
got in there, I said, I'm going to have to teach myself and copy company members because for the life of me, we would hear one thing from Muriel Stewart. They all understood Balanchine timing and emphasis and hands and head placement
Yes.
and certain characteristics that he demanded.
Yeah.
But they all came from different planets, and I was so confused when I got there. Was it different for you years later?
I came from the same thing. So I was used to well,
The
this teacher
diversity.
wants this teacher wants that, this
Oh,
teacher gives me this challenge, this teacher gives me this challenge, and I knew how to put them together.
I see.
So I saw the same thing in the school. I saw this teacher's for musicality, this one's for strength, this one's for style, this one's for old repertory. So, and I figured out, well, they're all, you know, I'm getting my protein, my carbs, my dairy, whatever. I just knew it was all going to feed the one thing. So I believed in it and I understood it for what it was.
Were you made an apprentice with other people or solely by Wendy Whelan's self? Or did they take in 4 or 6 ladies at the time?
I never did anything by myself. I always traveled in a group through the company. I was promoted, brought into the company. Everything I did was with a number of people. Nothing, I never felt specifically picked out as numero uno for anything.
Those days were over before you came along.
No, yeah, I think so.
They were.
Yeah.
It was a different approach.
Yeah.
How did you feel joining the company as an apprentice a year after Mr. Balanchine passed away?
Yeah.
Was it Peter Martins and Jerome Robbins were directing? They didn't get along. We all knew it. I quit dancing when Mr. B died in '83, so I was just photographing at that time. It was tumultuous.
Yeah.
And were you afraid day by day for your position? And did he like me? And did Jerry like me? Or was it a friend for yourself?
I wasn't more afraid. I just wondered, how is it going to play out? Is anybody going to like me? Who am I going to become? What am I going to turn into? How long will I be here? What am I going to learn? But I definitely felt the weight of the Balanchine dancers, because at the time it was 90% Balanchine dancers. And it was a very different energy, I just felt everybody felt much taller back then. And I wasn't a small person, but it just felt like a different group of dancers than, you know, than it is now. And that, of course, that's the way it is. But I felt their weighing of life and art and who am I without Balanchine. I could feel that tremendously.
Yeah.
And different energy I was getting from different people with that going on.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you think you learned more from the dancers that had worked for Balanchine than the 2 directors who were having a hair fight on a regular basis?
I learned everything from the dancers. Everything.
I just thought of that because you're describing so well what you walked in on. And I had just left. My partner at the time was still dancing, and he was at his wit's end because of this. You know, Peter Martins had never been a director before. He was a director. Jerry Robbins wasn't cut out for that. Didn't need to do that. But it was an ego thing, and they didn't love each other. They respected each other's talent.
Different.
And you young people could see that. So what dancers, if any, took you under their wing or wings? Anybody in your early years?
I had a number of people. Strangely, a few dancers popped out and said, "You've got something special," you know, and not everybody did that. And it was very tiny that they would say these things, you know, like they'd see me do a step across the floor, you know, commenting on how high I got in the air. Wow, that was just, you know, you got it, you've got something. Or some people would take me aside and teach me, you know, I need to help you with your makeup. Or you need to know how to sign in on time. You need to know this is the way it works. I had big brothers and big sisters. Not a lot of them, but a good handful. But then I had dancers that I loved, that I loved watching, that ultimately were sort of going into sort of ballet masterly roles, and did end up teaching me some of my first principal roles. One was Bart Cook.
Oh, yeah.
And he, hugely impactful to me.
Oh, really? That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Artistically.
Right.
Creatively. And supportively.
When you were promoted to soloist after, how many years in the corps de ballet?
3 or 4 years.
Your apprenticeship went on for almost 2 years, or am I misunderstanding that?
It was from '84 to '86, but it was kind of the end of
Year
'84,
and a
the
half.
beginning of '86.
Little year and
But
a
I
few
was
months.
like waiting on the edge of my seat to get in. I didn't know if I was ever going to get in. That was a very long time.
And did the other ladies that got in with you remain company members? Were they all, did they get in, or some left?
Eventually they did, and some left.
Okay, some left.
Yeah.
So then you were promoted to soloist by Peter Martins. Jerry was no longer sharing directorship by then?
That was 89, so I think he had
right after Jerry
stopped,
left.
yeah.
And how were you told that you are now a soloist?
Well, there was, I think, 11 of us promoted.
Are you kidding?
No, I'm not even joking.
11 to principal and soloist?
Yes, that day. And I think it was the last to find out.
Some companies don't have 11 dancers, younger ones. I mean, they have maybe 14.
Yeah. When I joined it, there was
That's
11 or 12 principal dancers. Now there's 25.
Really?
Yeah.
What was
So it's different, yeah.
What was the first solo you were given, and how did you feel doing it? I have a feeling you were confident, you couldn't wait to get out there and do it. But what was
What makes you
it?
think that?
Just I don't know. A feeling.
The first solo I did in City Ballet.
Yeah.
Well, Peter made a piece on a bunch of us newer dancers called Les Petits Riens.
Oh, yeah.
And it was 4 of his youngest, newest couples, 4 gentlemen, 4 ladies. And we were all his choice dancers, and we were like the newest ones. And that was exciting, and I didn't really
loved
expect
that ballet. Who was your partner?
Ricky Marsden.
Yeah.
Yeah,
World's
Richard Marsden.
Not the most reliable partner. Beautiful dancer.
Amazing dancer, and now he's an incredible teacher.
Good for him. His father was a dance teacher, too, I think.
Yeah, his mom. His godfather was Anton Dolan.
Oh, history.
Yeah.
I like that ballet. It ended on a bit of a
ballet.
flat note, though. It was a little, at the end, suit, new, bow, bow, bow.
I don't
bows.
remember, yeah.
I do.
It was a long time ago.
Did you not get along with anybody? Can you give us a little, was there anybody that was like, at you, like, you're always so damn thin? And
There were a couple of dancers, actually in my mind, a male and a female, who kind of bullied me.
Bullied.
A little bit.
That's the B word.
The big
not
word.
good.
Not good, yeah. But they
They
bullied
were-
me on,
A couple? They were a couple.
Not, they weren't a couple, no. They were, and they were separately bullying. They weren't bullying together. They were like, I was like, why do you guys come at me over these things? Yeah.
Why? Yeah.
But
Were you embraced by the company in general when
Yes.
you first joined? Everybody was really mourning,
they were mourning, but I feel like they were also realizing that, we got to look out. Balanchine's not here. We've got to look out for the people, the next people. We have to accept this, and we have to make it the best we can. And they were so many teachers in there.
How'd you feel about yourself as a performer? Did you, after a performance, were you like, damn, that sucked?
Oh, very often, yeah.
So you would call yourself a late bloomer?
Oh, yeah.
Is that Wendy Whelan?
Hugely so, yeah.
Late bloomer,
Yeah.
here and all related.
Yes, but I can relate it to something Christopher Wheeldon always said to me. He's like, I was never the quickest person to pick up steps, never.
Oh, really?
So that was always a challenge. But I think he said, well, Wendy, you take your time putting pieces together in a different way than most people do, but it's more impactful and it lasts. And I think I did that with life. It took me a long time to figure things out. I didn't just jump the gun and go, this is who I am. I thought, I have no idea who I am. And until I do, I'm not going to act on it. I didn't feel like I had the right to have a real voice until I was 30 on stage. I was like always, I was confident, very confident, but I was also very respectful and not, I didn't
Pushing the boundaries.
expect, I didn't feel that I was, deserving of things always.
I feel people wake up at 30. No offense to the young people in the room, all 2.5 of you.
Yeah. I felt like that was the time that
I feel
was
like I just started to dry behind the ears at 30, just the beginning of my life, really.
I thought, now I might have earned something.
Yeah.
That's when I thought.
You said you were a slow, not the quickest learner.
Right. Always, my whole life.
I was hosting the 10 Hairy Legs guys the other night in the rink of this fun dance company. And I told them that I had a career in Russia We were there for 4 weeks, and everyone had diarrhea but me, so I got to do all these solos. And then I came back, and they were all better, and my career was over.
Well, you were the fastest learner, though, I think.
Fabulous.
Yeah.
No one was photographing, of course. No proof.
Wow. That is amazing.
Yeah.
See,
Sure.
I would have been one of those in the bathroom. Here,
Oh, God,
Stephen.
I hope not.
Here, you get my tutu.
No, I got it on the plane on the way home, I think. How was your relationship with Jerry Robbins? I think it was a good one.
Yeah, yeah, go ahead.
Robbins was notoriously difficult, okay? We'll put that D word in there. You with Jerry, Jerry with you. Did he love you right away?
He was older when I came around. You know, he was the last 12 years of his life. Mm-hmm. He had some health issues. He was slowing down slightly, and he liked me. Mm-hmm. I remember the first exchange of words we ever had. I was just getting put into principal roles here and there, and I was doing Symphony in 3 Movements. And he had gone out to see the show. He came backstage. I was at the call board checking out if I had a rehearsal. And he said, "I'm so glad this is happening for you." And I was just like,
How
you know,
nice.
and I just felt immediate, like, he thinks I'm a hard worker. He knows I'm a hard worker.
Right.
He knows that I'm applying myself in a way that he respects. Mm-hmm. And I could feel that immediately. And
Nice.
I was called to all of his ballets to learn. I was always in the room with him. Mm-hmm. I wasn't doing them all. I was often just an understudy, but I was there. Mm-hmm. I think he liked my energy.
Yeah, I believe that.
Yeah, and then by the end, when I was doing principal roles in his ballets, I could make him laugh, and he really liked that.
Oh, he needed that.
He needed laughs.
On a regular
Yeah.
basis. For what reason, I don't know.
I energized him.
So talented.
Mm-hmm.
Did you ever witness the other side
Yes,
of
I did.
Midnight with Jerry?
Not personally to me, but I saw it with other people when I'm on the side of the room watching a rehearsal. I could see it.
Yeah. I know.
Terrifying.
And even then, when I was already gone, and not there regularly,
Yeah.
but even in his last 12 years, the mellow, but still, it erupted every once in a while.
Not quite as
You never saw the
angry
stuff
or
we saw.
not quite as mean. No, I didn't
Right.
get what you guys
Yeah.
got. Yeah.
Okay. What about with Peter Martins? Were you not his type dancer, or were you his type
I
dancer?
never really knew.
Did you ever have a conversation with him about it? He cast
He
you
cast
things?
me. I know when I first got in, I was, like I said in the film, extremely strong and capable. That 15-pound body cast gave me some real oomph and strength. And that time, I got, a lot of understanding going on. I felt like I could do anything at the school. I came in with the confidence. I got in the company because I was capable of, finishing my turn and jumping and whatever you want. Just don't teach me a ballet fast. But I don't know. I know he liked certain people much better than me.
Right. And that,
but
that changed with him.
It took him forever to understand me, and I still don't know if at the end he really ever really fully got me.
You think it was a personality thing, or you think it was your dancing?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, we definitely had a very good relationship my whole career. I never had any negative feeling from him, ever. A lot of support, but yet again, we never hung out. I didn't get a lot of compliments, really. But I definitely felt support from him.
And good input at times?
Yes,
in
good
rehearsals?
input at times, yeah.
You had the most wide-ranging repertory as a ballerina, more so than anybody that I can think of. Agon, Liebeslieder Waltzer, Sugar Plum, to Jerry Robbins is The Cage. She's like the Meryl Streep of the ballet stage. She never ceases to amaze us, Meryl Streep. And that's the way I used to think of you. Was there a role that you felt completely unsuited to, or a style of one of the choreographers?
Who Cares? I hated Who Cares.
You
Always.
mean the Gershwin?
Always.
The Gershwin ballet.
Always. Never liked
Because
that.
you didn't want to smile if you didn't feel like it?
No.
Yeah.
It wasn't, for me, deep enough. It felt, too showy. And I was never a Broadway-y kind of person, ever.
Yeah.
Still not. But I love it, but it's not me. And I'm old-fashioned, similarly. Robbins, I'm old-fashioned, the austere.
You're
Just
not
don't
all that.
make me have a hat and cane. that's not my thing. Give me the dark, ugly stuff, and I'm really happy.
Yeah, moody, dark. Yeah.
But like you were saying earlier, one night in particular sticks out to me where I did second act Swan Lake. There was an intermission. I changed my costume and I did the cage. So I went from the birds to the bees, and I loved the journey of that evening emotionally. I love having to use my brain and my mind and using imagery to create these dances. And those were two ballets I could really do that with. And to put them together, the challenge and the thrill of that was amazing.
Wow.
Yeah.
Christopher Wheeldon, great choreographer, was the resident choreographer for New York City Ballet under Peter Martins for a while, and then off on his own company, Morphosis, and you guested with them. Then, of course, he choreographed An American in Paris and won the Tony as choreographer for that. You guys, he found his choreographic voice with you as a choreographer at New York City Ballet, and that was a relationship we all adored watching from afar, audience members that weren't in the background any longer. Can you talk a little bit about your development as Wendy, another extension of you, thanks to Christopher, and we're just...
Yeah, well, Jerry put us together to dance.
Robbins?
Yes.
Yeah, Christopher was a beautiful dancer in the New York City
dancer.
Ballet, soloist, trained with the Royal Ballet.
Uh-huh.
Gorgeous partner, dancer,
Yeah.
fun.
Not
everything.
the best partner.
Oh, no?
No,
Oh,
no.
okay.
Which was great because that's why he loved to explore it and study it. But Jerry put us together in Dances at a Gathering in the Giggle Dance. And I'm a few years older than Chris, about 7 years older, so I felt like its big sister. And he would have to do this press lift with me, and he could never do it. It's like, come on, Chris, just get me right here. And please, use your legs. And he would be like, I don't know, come on. And I always landed on his chest. And I would be like, all right, well, we'll try again. We'll try it again. So we just kept, working on it. I was like, he was so eager to get me in the air, and it was hard. And but sometimes backstage when we were not dancing our little duet together, I would see him, and he had his little notepad and his headphones on, and he'd be like taking note. I'm like, what are you doing? We have to go out soon. He's like, oh no, I still really want to be a choreographer. And he's like 21.
Right.
And I was like, really? He's like, yes, Peter said I could make something at the school. And I was like, well, good luck with that. So cocky. And then look at him. He's got the Tony Award. So anyway, and he was making ballets at New York City Ballet, but they were, again, a little more, they were kind of lovely ballets. And I never was quite that kind of a dancer.
Yeah. Don't make me
naturally.
smile.
Don't make me,
Right.
Whatever. But they were like village people kind of things, not like not like the band, but like villagers. And so I never thought he would put me in his work because it was a little too classical. Right. Then one year, all of a sudden, he calls me to a piece, and I was like, "Did you make a mistake?" And he's like, "No, I'm going to try something different." I was like, "Okay." He's like, "I'm going to go with some Ligeti music." It's very abstract.
Whose music?
Georgi Ligeti.
Oh, Ligeti.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So we made Polyphonia.
Right.
And we got in the studio and we made this iconic duet in like 1 or 2 rehearsals.
Wow.
And that's where he started. And then
we
made another duet. And then he was chewing on this music, and it was very challenging. And we just supported him through it. And he made this piece that really put him on the map.
And put you two together in a much more intimate way as a muse and
well, I was older than
creator.
him again, and he really took my ideas into the pieces with him. Mm-hmm. He allowed me to participate because he gave me a lot of respect.
Good.
And it was collaborative.
Yeah.
And we fed each other with it.
He's an awesome human being.
He's an awesome
Period.
human being.
So,
Almost as funny as you.
What?
Almost as funny as
Oh, really?
you. Yeah, he's right up
funny.
there. He's
That's a
very
compliment.
Funny. Yeah.
He's funny.
He is funny, yeah.
Yeah. You dance with so many men. You mentioned that Bart Cook was one who helped you define further and understand Balanchine, and probably some Robbins too.
Yeah.
You danced with Damien Wetzel, Chris Wheeldon, Jacques Soto, the late great Albert Evans, Nikolai Huby, Peter Bowl, Craig Hall, Jared Engel, who we saw in the end of this film, both of whom choreographed this finale piece of her career.
Tyler Engel and Craig
Tyler
Hall.
Engel choreographed it, yeah, with Chris Wheeldon. So of all the guys you danced with, could you say who was the match made in heaven, physically, on a regular basis? Or
Really
depend
hard
on
to
the role?
say. They're all so different. It's like a different, it's like going into a different piece. There's a different light, there's a different music, there's a different chemistry. And I loved the different chemistries with the different partners
that's
I
great.
had.
That's
I
great.
don't really have I mean, of course, there were certain partners that really lifted me up. But then there were partners that I lifted up, which was equally as gratifying.
Wow. See,
So-
in the more classics, you always see the partnerships that remain together, and the Giselles and the Swan Lakes, they are just sort of patented together. It's
Yeah.
rare that they alternate with a 2 or a 4 actor or a 3 actor. Tell us about your husband.
Oh,
I'm
so glad you asked.
He is a photographer, a filmmaker.
He's a visual artist, yeah.
A visual artist. David Michalak?
Michalak, yeah.
Okay, I know him, I can never pronounce his name. Tell us how you met.
We met on a photo shoot.
Oh.
For the Nutcracker film. The Arabian costume that I was in, I walked into the studio, 1993, Sun Studio in New York, bright and early in the morning, and this handsome man, beautiful, like the most handsome man I've ever met besides Stephen.
Oh, please.
And
Your check is in the mail.
was like, who's the photographer? Because we were both 26 at the time. And he's like, I'm the photographer. I was like, you're too young to be the photographer. And he's like, no, I'm really the photographer. And I put on my Arabian outfit, jewel in the belly button. And he was sort of doing a George Platt Lines kind of feeling. And
Right.
he had a pedestal, and he
style of
lifted me
his
up
work.
and put me on the pedestal. And I thought,
And he's had you there ever since.
he's had me there ever
Wink,
since.
wink. Yeah. He's gorgeous, by the way. It's true. And super talented.
Yeah.
That picture you saw of Wendy on the screen is one of his still photographs, but he is a visual artist and does so many wonderful things. So you were together ever since? I mean, you got married soon after? Or?
No. We had like an 11-year courtship. He lived in Los Angeles.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, he
okay.
just came to New York for the photo shoot, and then he left.
Okay.
But then we went on tour to LA, and our press agent had a crush on him. So she's like
Who
invited
was that?
him. Liz Healy.
Oh, her.
Yeah. And so she
Like
invited
they know
him
her.
to come and take photos. And I was like, there's that guy again. And so I thought, I'll be friendly and introduce him to all the dancers, because it was only a few of us that he photographed. And we started to hang out, and by the end of the week, we exchanged numbers. And
Did you really introduce him to all the dancers? Hi, here's the other kids. Here's my phone number.
No. No, I did. And we hung out, and wherever we would go, we were on tour. We invited him to have dinner with us and stuff. And then there were these fires, or probably earthquake or something that happened in Los Angeles, and I thought, I've got to call him, see how he's doing. So I did, and he said, I'm coming to New York in a month or two. Would you like to have breakfast?
Yeah.
I was like, I would love that.
Yeah.
And our
lunch and
our
dinner.
breakfast date lasted 4 days.
Wow.
And then we were together.
That's nice.
Yeah,
And-
but then we got married in 2005, so it was about 11 years.
Good.
Yeah.
And he travels a lot with his
Yeah,
work.
he travels
It'll last forever that way.
What?
Good. The separation is great.
Yeah.
Very healthy.
Well, we're both artists, but in different, forms, and so we get each other, and we get each other's need to be in our space, in our worlds. But he also gives me a perspective on my world, and I give him one on his, and that really is nice.
Healthy. So you
right.
guessed it with the Kirov, you guessed it with the Royal. That never happens with a New York City ballet artist. It's rare. What did you dance with the Royal Ballet of London, and what did you dance with the Kirov?
I danced Forsyth's Herman Schmerman. We just came in, Sylvie Guillaume had an injury. I was like, I'll fill in for Sylvie. So, so Albert Evans and I went and we danced Herman
Nice.
Schmerman with them for
Nice.
a weekend.
Wow.
Yeah. And then the Kirov, they were doing a little bit of an exchange, and Jock Soto and I went and danced Rubies with their company.
Wow.
And they giggled at us. They thought we were funny. Because it was different than what they were
Right.
used to seeing.
Yeah.
They were like, I've never seen it look like that before.
But had they done
They've
Rubies
done
at that
Rubies.
point?
Yeah, they had.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they were seeing the real
No,
version.
no. I didn't do Rubies a whole lot with New York City Ballet, but that piece I got to go and do, and I did it enough that I was comfortable with it. But there was always smaller girls that needed that role, and I could always go into the other
Right.
other jewel.
You were a bit leggy for that.
I was
Yeah.
much more of a diamond girl
Right.
than but I loved the Rubies so.
Do you know, I was doing the 10 Hairy Legs interview the other night of the dancers on stage, and one of the audience questions, by the way, think of questions because we're getting close to asking you to ask Wendy something. A woman in the audience raised her hand. She said, I've been to the ballet, and they don't have any facial expressions at all. And tonight, I've never seen so many great facial expressions. So I said to her, thank you very, very little on behalf of all of us in the ballet world for being expression-free. And I said, I think you need a new seat. Oh, no, a better seat. Oh, no. I said, how many times you've gone? Oh, for years, for years. No expression. And I said, slip into a pair of toe shoes in front of the mirror and watch your face drop. If I were employed by the Caras, I wouldn't be any longer after that. So sometimes you dance when you're injured. And you were never injured
Not really.
until your pain started to come to you after you saw on the casting, not with a phone call or a meeting, that you wouldn't be doing a certain role anymore after many, many years
It was a
in the company.
meeting that I had.
Oh, so there was a real meeting.
A real meeting.
And about not doing, was it Sugar Plum? Or was
The
it-
meeting was not about dancing at all. It
Oh.
was about other things that I had actually gone into and asked,
Okay.
I wanted to learn about administrative duties. I just wanted to learn how to fundraise. I wanted to learn what does it take to be behind the scenes, because I've only been on the stage. And I knew I was getting to that place, and I was really honestly curious. And so I had this meeting with Peter, and within 10 minutes, we didn't really get into the administrative things, but he said, I want to talk to you about the Nutcracker. I don't think you should do it any longer. I had been injury-free, full classes, dancing every night. It surprised me. It just took the rug out from under me, because I wasn't prepared for that kind of conversation, nor did I think I was at that point physically. Since I was doing 15 gigs of it, I thought, I know I can do it. So it broke me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you were broken by that.
Yeah,
that
and then it
conversation.
went into I believe it went into my body, because I spent 4 years in constant pain ever since then.
And that's, what would you have done differently if you had been in his seat?
I wouldn't have said this is what the meeting's about and then changed the meeting purpose. I just would have been a little more forthright. I'd have found another option. I would have found a trade-off somehow. Maybe was to teach me about administrative duties, and not do Nutcracker, but I got neither. So, yeah.
In 2012, you became a producer, really, with your Restless Creature collaborative project. You hired 4 choreographers to do solos for you and duets with each of them.
I knew I wanted to explore more contemporary dance, because I was contemporary ballerina, but I was always in point shoes. And I figured, I want to try without the shoes, and I want to go deeper into this world of contemporary dance, because I think I have a real interest for that, and I think I can have a future in that beyond ballet. And I wanted to explore different people and learn. Really, that's all I wanted to do, was continue learning. And I knew I needed to go somewhere else to do that. So I did. I found 4 contemporary choreographers that I loved their work. And they also danced, because I wanted to dance with each choreographer. Because I had loved my time in the studio with Wheeldon and with Rutmansky, who both are around my age, and they are both very, very physical. And when we're learning a piece, we're dancing next to each other, and I love that feeling of that kind of intimacy and that chemistry of creative flowering together. So I wanted to put that on the stage. So I found 4 amazing contemporary choreographers that have still performed, and I asked them to make a duet for us. So I worked with Kyle Abraham, who went on to get a MacArthur Award. Brian Brooks, who's making a premiere Miami City Ballet in the next month. His first ballet on point. An incredible contemporary choreographer. Alejandro Cerruto from Hubbard Street, who is a phenomenal choreographer who used to be in Netherlands Dance Theater. And Joshua Beamish, a young guy, 20 years younger than me to the day. We have the same birthday, 20 years apart. Wow. He was my partner. Canadian guy, amazing mover, and a really interesting choreographer.
That's cool. So premiered at Jacob's Pillow.
2013.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You announced your retirement in 2014, and immediately, within weeks, Baryshnikov wrote an article about you in Vanity Fair. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
With that gorgeous picture by your husband.
That's right.
And he said this: her career has been exemplary. Well, duh. A little stingy on the word there, Misha. She's left her mark on works created by some of the best choreographers in the business: Balanchine, Robbins, Wheeldon, Forsyth, Rutmansky, and on and on. It's an impressive list. Impressive? That's an understatement. He also said that the title of your project, Restless Creature, reveals how urgently Wendy Whelan needs to move beyond the familiar. So related to what you just said, he called you courageous. What do you call you courageous? Do you look back and say it, or do you feel it at the time?
My goal when, ever since that meeting, literally, was to become fearless and to leave with grace and leave with strength and dignity and health. I wanted to leave physically in good health. So I needed to do anything that would bring me those things, and I did. I found ways to bring myself each of those things. And I try, for the past 3 years I've been freelance, and my goal is to, when met with something that frightens me, do it. So I get over that fear. So I have no more fear for things. And I am always encountering something that terrifies me.
Right.
But
I think that's join the world kind of thing.
Yeah.
We all cover it up.
Yeah.
Some better than others, but
yeah. And there's a great book, I can't remember what it's called, but it's by Brene Brown, it's something about vulnerability. Something Greatly, check it out, Brene Brown. And it's all about your vulnerabilities and how much power you have in that, and in owning vulnerability and fragility and your humanness. And I'm trying to live with that in mind.
That's great.
Yeah.
So this Restless Creature turned into a film.
Yeah.
And it went on to become, a nationwide favorite in movie theaters. It won the Chita Rivera Award last year. And you all know what Rotten Tomatoes is? That got 100. I mean, nobody gets all 5 stars. You got 100. You and Gone with the Wind, right? Yes. How'd you feel? Netflix, by the way, it's available. Amazon.com and elsewhere. Please see it. Was just in a brief answer, the experience.
One of my philanthropist donors for Restless Creature, who's gone on to help me with a number of projects, thought of this idea. Let's make a documentary on the Restless Creature project. And I was like, no, you don't understand. I'm having issues walking. My career at ballet is, it's not a really good time. I don't know what end is up. I don't know where I'm going to land. I don't know if I'm going to succeed. And she said, exactly, a perfect documentary. And I was just like, so we did one day of testing. I met the filmmakers that she had chosen. and we spent 4 or 5 hours together in the studio and then at my home, and then they sent me the footage. And my husband and I both looked at it, and I really trust his instinct, and he said, it's cinema verite, which is really good. I think if you're gonna do something like this is the best way to do it, and with this cinematographer, he's done so many films with dance, highly regarded cinematographer, Don Lenzer, and I felt good with him, so we went with it. I went with it. And I was terrified because I didn't have any say in the final outcome.
Oh, yeah.
You know, they were editing, and they were gonna make the story out of a very complicated story.
Yeah.
They had 400 hours of footage. They had to break down to 1.5 hour.
Yeah.
Took them more than a year
Too
to
many
edit.
cooks. They didn't want too many cooks.
Too
in
many
there.
storylines too.
Right.
And but it worked. You know, I had no idea how it was going to end. They just followed each thing as it happened.
Right.
So it just played out in front of the camera in real time,
Right.
and they captured it.
What was your favorite? If you had one message to say that somebody told you after the film, anything that comes to mind that touched your heart especially, your reaction?
After the film, I don't know. I've had so many talkbacks after the film, so I've learned a lot about other people's perspectives on it. I'm really proud that it's not just a dance film. It's a human story that takes place in a dance,
Real time, too.
in a dancer's life. But it's everybody faces these same issues and deals with them in their own way, and we all do it the way we do it. But one thing I always thought was facing this sort of transition and this transformation was to do it in a creative way, like make it a creative act, this discomfort. And for me, that helped a lot. Turning it into some kind of project, sort of. Shaping it how I wanted to shape it as best I could, and shaping how I want to think about it and how I want to speak about it. But one thing my teacher said, the teacher from France who got me to New York in the beginning, she saw my last show in New York, and she always called me Little Wendy because there was another Wendy too. She was like, Little Wendy, you've done so good. Don't look back. Do not look back.
Right.
Move forward.
Cool.
And I've done that. I've tried to do that.
Right. You're a teacher now.
Yeah.
Teach. You've staged other people's works.
Yeah.
She's teaching a class with Ballet Palm Beach later today. She's coming back in 2 weeks to get the Career Transition for Dancers Award at their gala at the Breakers, the Heart and Soul Award on February 8th. That day before, you're teaching a master class at Boca Ballet Theater, and then you're teaching a master class on the 10th for the Florida School of Dance Education. All people from those entities happen to be here today. I wanted to mention that, and that they're here and loving you, who wouldn't. But teaching and staging other people's works is not for everybody. Just because you can dance doesn't mean you can translate.
That was a huge fear for me.
It's just pretty awesome. I'm so happy that you're doing it. But, you know, I just want to mention real quick the elephant in the room. Peter Martin stepping down, transition. He did a lot of good things. He was there for over 30 years. He kept it alive and well and rich and current, and over the choreographic workshop at Balanchine, he kept that going. Good for you. Sooner or later, it has to be somebody that didn't work for Balanchine. As I said, we're a dying breed, those of us. What you were quoted as saying in one of the newspapers, it would be refreshing to have a female perspective at this point, right? Don't you think?
I think so.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So, has anyone called you?
No.
No, okay.
No. Has
Okay.
anyone called you?
Do you think the School of American Ballet needs a separate director than the company? Is it too big now? Or do you think just,
so.
Yeah, I do too. I would like to know, and Wendy would, if there's anybody in the audience before we wrap up that has a question for Wendy. We have a microphone available. Do we have that ready yet? Or, yes, we have a hand raised. Well, go ahead and ask me, and then we'll translate. Go ahead. If we call a female dancer a ballerina, what do we call a male dancer? underpaid and very unlucky. A schlepper. No, we're a male dancer. We don't have a, you know.
Dancer noble.
Dancer noble. If you're a Baryshnikov or a Peter Martins, but if you're a Corps de Ballet member like I was, you're a schlepper. Thank you. Very little. Yes, Anka.
I would also like to thank Wendy for giving me her shoes. I
Oh.
sat in the front row for 20 years.
Oh my God.
Oh.
And
They're big, aren't they?
No.
Big feet.
No. And one day, I was invited backstage and met you.
Oh.
And
That's
you
nice.
sent out a pair of your shoes.
And she had expression, didn't she? We have a question up here. Anka?
Anka and Wendy, because as you know, I'm so involved in dances and to help them transition. We always say because of the discipline that a dancer can do almost anything.
I think so.
And so, I mean, we personally have dancers, thousands of
Right.
dancers transition.
We'll tell you. Okay. Anka has asked, has made a comment that dancers, once they've danced, they have the capability to do just about anything. With that training, that discipline, that learning how to work with other people, getting it right, not leaving at 5:30, the end of the day or the end of the work week. So yes, thank you for pointing that out. One or two more questions. Yes, Robin.
Thank you so much for sharing so much of your life with us, Wendy. It's really been inspirational. Have you tried or wanted to try choreographing?
Has she wanted to try choreographing?
Yeah, I'm not a choreographer. I've never wanted to be a choreographer. I have tried it because I was sort of forced to try it because it was a fear of mine, and I know I'm not a choreographer. That said, I love choreographers, and I love being the sidecar to a choreographer, whether I'm their performer or whether I am just supportive of their work. I think I have a good eye for choreographers. That's where I position myself slightly behind and to the side of a choreographer, and I like that position. That's where I am most comfortable and the place I love to be.
Thank you.
I have a question
Okay.
back here.
Where are you?
Wendy, when you were at SAB, did you have Mr. Rapp and Madame Danilova? And if so, what were your impressions?
At the School of American Ballet, did she have Richard Rapp as a teacher?
Yes,
And
yes. And Madame Danilova?
Madame Danilova. Were they your
I
teachers?
did have both of them, and I loved both of them. I didn't have Richard Rapp a whole lot, though I loved watching him teach. He gave a really difficult, really interesting class. One of the smartest teachers I have ever seen. He wrote me a card recently when I retired, like the loveliest card, and I kind of kept that.
Beautiful.
And Danilova, she gave me a pin back when I was a student because I had in the 80s, my jacket covered in pins, so she gave me this Russian ballet school pin.
Beautiful.
But she let me take her D-level classes on Wednesday nights. I was only in C2, but she kind of let me sneak in and take more classes with her. I loved her, and I worked with her on The Lilac Fairy and Sleeping Beauty. So, yeah, I adored her.
It's great that you had her.
Yeah.
One more
Hello,
question,
Wendy.
I think.
How's the mic?
Good.
Hi.
That's good.
I want to thank you, first of all, for the 30 years of generous and beautiful performances that we were all privileged to enjoy. But when we retire from dance, people don't often ask us about future dreaming. So what are you most looking forward to in the next year to 3 years? What's your dream and your desire for yourself?
Learning. It's all I really want to do is to keep focused on exploring. I'm an explorer. I recently found out, this is really interesting, that I am the 9th great-granddaughter of Henry Hudson. Who knew? Yes.
How did you do that? Did you spit in a cup or something?
No, I looked back on a number of sources, and every time I went back, it led to him. And
Wow.
so if I had only a nickel for every person that went through the tolls.
Awesome.
Yeah, yeah, I could really retire. But yeah, so I think exploration is in my nature.
That's so funny.
Yeah. Isn't that funny?
Yeah. Okay. Well, you know what? Okay, one last question, then I want to read something real quick.
Thank you for sharing your experiences. I know it may have been overly dramatized, but I'm curious what elements or threads of truth you found in the story of the Black Swan and what the chatter was in the ballet community after that.
Oh, in the Black Swan,
the movie
film?
The Black Swan with Natalie Portman.
Oh, I wrote a piece in the Daily Beast. Is that what it is called?
Daily
on
Beast?
It? Yeah. And, you know, I liked the movie because I didn't take it seriously. I was like, this is a psychodrama about a psycho personality in the ballet world. It could have been in any world. They put it in the ballet world because, you know, it could thrive there. There were a lot of elements in the film that I, you know, said, oh, I've experienced something like that. I've experienced something like that. I used to go and steal Maria Caligari's Chanel No. 5 in the dressing room after the shows and put it on and leave. You know, I did that. I didn't steal her earrings, but, you know, you know, that's, the feelings are sort of there. They're just magnified and dramatized. But it's a fun movie for what it is, you know. It's not real ballet.
Real. It's not what.
No,
it's not
but there's
real.
they really played on the elements
Exaggerate.
that are there, and they you know, sort of turned it into a big giant disaster. Did you say?
Well, I thought they were trying to play with our consciousness. Is this happening or is this somebody's fantasy?
Yeah.
I was so confused throughout it, and I thought, ballet's not like that.
Yeah.
But it was still beautifully done.
Yeah, it was fun. It was a fun
there's
ride.
no question about that.
But
Lighting
it's not
and
real ballet.
It's disturbing.
Yeah.
And that was his intention.
I like that stuff. Yeah, that was his
Don't
intention.
make me smile.
Yes, don't make me smile.
Okay, in closing, I'd like to read something to Wendy that came to me via Facebook, a private message, no, an email from Chris Wheeldon, who's in London.
Oh.
The Tony Award-winning choreographer. Here's see the picture?
Yes.
I found that of you grabbing him. I said, would you say something about your muse, Wendy, since you couldn't be here? And he said, to this day, I have yet to work with a dancer who is so much like a prism. One's choreography is the light, and after passing through her, it is divided into many colors. She is a poet of movement. Every angle, every rotation, every extension is in some way commenting on the space around her. With Wendy, it is never simply just a step. Few dancers leave a trail in the air after they have moved. Somehow Wendy's movement hangs in the air just a little after she finishes, or perhaps just indelibly in your memory. And then parentheses, oh, and she's the nicest person on the planet. To boot, wish I was there to be with you. How can I thank Wendy enough for making the effort to come down here and share her art with all of us? It's so wonderful.
Thank you, Scott.
Thank you. And thank you, everybody. It takes a village to support the arts, here and everywhere good. Keep it up.